present with his attorneys, Mr. King, Ms. Spengler, and Ms. Nelson, and the people are represented by Mr. Brockler, Mr. Orman, Ms. Pearson, Ms. Teach McGuire, and Mr. Edson. Because I recognize that there may be folks here today who were not here yesterday, let me provide the announcement that I made yesterday to the gallery before we start. I want to remind everyone that this is a public proceeding, and I want everyone to feel welcome and comfortable here. That is very important to me. As I have mentioned before, this is your justice system. You have every right to be here. Some of you in the courtroom are victims. You have a constitutional right to be here and to speak at this sentencing hearing. However, you must observe proper courtroom decorum. I am very sensitive to the fact that this case may evoke powerful emotions. I completely understand that. I have not prohibited emotional reactions. To the contrary, I have recognized that most visible emotional reactions are inevitable and appropriate. What I ask is that you please follow the rules that I have set for this hearing, and those rules are the following. Number one, please address all of your comments to me. You cannot direct your comments to the defendant or to anyone else. Number two, please make sure that your comments are professional. You cannot use improper language in the courtroom. Number three, if you read something, I ask that you please read it slowly so that my co-reporter can take it down. There's a tendency when you're reading something to go really fast and not realize that you're going fast. Lawyers and judges do it. It's not just the public. And if you could please just remind yourself to go slowly or as slow as you can, it will help Ms. Troiani keep up with you as she's taking down what you're reading. Number four, please wait for your turn to speak. You cannot speak or make comments from the gallery. And number five, please start your comments by stating who you are and spelling your name. With one exception, by someone who's not involved in this case, there have been no issues from anyone in the gallery throughout these proceedings. I thank you for that, and I ask that you please continue to conduct yourselves in the same manner. Please remember that it is my duty and my responsibility to defend and uphold the authority and dignity of the court. All right, with that announcement, Ms. Teach McGuire, are the people ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who would you like to call first today?
Lori Renfro.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Tell me your name, please.
My name is Lori Renfro, Lori-Renfro. And I have my sister Lisa here with me today and my brother John, and I want to deliver a statement on behalf of A.J. Boik's Arizona family.
Please proceed.
All right. One day, I had an 18-year-old son and an 18-year-old nephew. Both recently graduated from high school and on their way to college. These two cousins in two different states attended the July 20th, 2012 midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. Ironically, they were both in a theater labeled as number 9. One of those cousins, my son Brandon, made it home safely after the movie. The other cousin, my nephew AJ, did not. My brother John is AJ's dad. John became aware that AJ was missing in the early morning hours of July 20th. Separated in distance by hundreds of miles, we struggled to find out information, feeling helpless but hopeful. My mom, AJ's grandmother, stopped everything and placed herself in front of the TV to listen for clues from the ongoing news coverage. We knew that AJ's mom, Teresa, was at Gateway High School waiting for news about AJ. We agonized over what she must be going through. Was he hurt? Was he in surgery? Why wasn't anyone telling us anything? My eyes were glued to CNN, hoping for a glimmer of information. John began to work on how he could leave town and get to AJ as soon as possible. And then a snippet on CNN reached through the telephone screen and shocked us. Someone who had been in the theater said that AJ Boik had been shot. It went by so fast that we weren't sure we had heard it correctly, and we couldn't get any verification of the information. My brother managed to find a flight and get himself on a plane headed for Denver. As the day progressed and turned into night, it became increasingly clear that AJ would not be emerging from the chaos. Eventually, after 18 hours of waiting and hoping and praying, the police informed AJ's mother that AJ had indeed died in the theater. My brother, still on his way to Denver, without any family members with him, was unaware that AJ had been murdered. As the plane landed, John collected his belongings and began to head down the aisle. His phone rang. It was Teresa. That is how he found out that his child had died. My family didn't have the chance to see AJ every day. The time we did have with him was special, and we clung to those memories until the next opportunity to have him in our lives. We loved him, he made us laugh, and he eased his father's pain of the forced separation between them. John and AJ had a lot in common. They were both youngest children, both laid back and easygoing, both artists, both born with a gift to make others smile, both incredible people. Since AJ's death, I often think about a moment of time when we were all together in northern Michigan for a family vacation. 4 cousins took off for an adventure into the forest. I was worried about my son Brandon. I didn't want to let him go off into the woods. I yelled at the boys to please watch out for Brandon. AJ had a fantastic smile on his face. I wish I could freeze that moment in time. I want to extract AJ from that moment and keep him with me. I want to tell him to live his life to the fullest and to make every moment count. When the boys eventually returned from their adventure, I was so relieved, and then I learned more from Brandon on what had really happened. The older boys had briefly abandoned the younger ones. Brandon and AJ, temporarily lost in the woods, created a sub-adventure for themselves, and AJ led the way. He stuck it out with Brandon and embraced the opportunity to explore. AJ was never bothered about being lost. He kept things light and positive, and he brought Brandon home safely. I remember thinking about how AJ was able to so fully and successfully move about in the world. Head up, what's next, no fear. The last time we all saw AJ, we got to experience his passion for art and music and his dream of going to college and becoming a ceramics teacher. He gifted us with one of his treasures, a ceramic piece that he had created. During that visit, I internally celebrated the bond that I observed between AJ and his father. They were so good together. Their relationship was easy and relaxed. AJ was able to reach into my brother's world and instantly bridge the distance that any elapsed time had created. Shortly after AJ's death, in my own attempt to cope, I did something I felt was monumental, something that many of us take for granted and do on a rather frequent basis. I went to a movie. I stood alone at the box office waiting to buy my ticket. I hoped that the movie would not be showing in a theater labeled with the number 9. As I walked into the theater, I thought about where to sit. I knew that AJ had been in the row behind the railing. I found myself focused very quickly on the exit signs. I kept looking, analyzing, thinking about where the exits had been relative to AJ on that tragic night. I tried to will him forward. I wondered how to make meaning out of something so meaningless. As the movie ended, I left my seat and headed for the exit. I wondered how I could ever be comfortable in a theater again. And I thought about the pain of AJ's mother. I cannot even begin to comprehend the pain that a parent feels when their child has been taken. After all, my own child made it safely home on July 20th. What I do know is the pain that I experience and the rest of my family experiences because John has to now endure a pain that can never be erased. As John's oldest sister, I feel hugely protective of him. This situation rendered me powerless. I can't turn back the clock to be there to protect AJ. I can't fill the gaping hole that has been dug into my brother's life, and I can't do anything to alter the fact that our entire family is deprived for the rest of their lives of the joy that AJ brought into our lives. At one moment, we had a precious son, grandson, nephew, and cousin. And the next moment, he was gone. Crafting a victim impact statement has been difficult but necessary. I appreciate having the right to do this on behalf of the family members I am representing. One of the most difficult things about it is to embrace the term victim because of the connotation of helplessness. So, as I acknowledge the devastating impact of this crime on us, I would also like to recognize that AJ was set on a course to have a brilliant life, stopped short by an unimaginable set of circumstances. Nothing can fix that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Brockler.
Your Honor, this next victim impact statement is going to be on behalf of victim Jesse Childress, who the court may recall. That guy murdered with a shotgun in the theater. This is by Gail Childress, and Gail is Gayel. Childress is Childress. She's the grandmother of homicide victim Jesse Childress. My name is Gail Childress. I am the grandmother of Jesse Childress, a murdered victim of the theater shooting. This crime stole from our family my firstborn grandson, the joy of our family. As grandmother, I see the impact on the loss of Jesse and how this tragic loss has affected 10 families. They are as follows. Gaylin Childress, and that is spelled Gaylin, Childress. My daughter, Gaylin, and Jesse's aunt. Jesse and Gaylin were only a few years apart and were very close. Jesse lived with us in his early years, and Gaylin and Jesse were like brother and sister. This crime stole the closest person and confidant away from her and changed her life forever. The loss for her threw her into a very deep depression and PTSD syndrome that she is still struggling with and still needs to see a specialist in trauma and attachment. Lisa and Shannon Childress. Lisa's the traditional spelling. Shannon has two N's next to each other and then O-N. My son and lovely daughter-in-law, the father and mother of Jesse Childress, their firstborn son. My feelings for my son and his family's loss is unbearable, and she has italicized and bolded unbearable. I am so grateful for my son's wife, Lisa, who is so strong and caring and knowing how to comfort her husband and family. I see my son has withdrawn within himself. He doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, with the loss of Jesse. Even though Lisa is strong on the outside, I feel she's very fragile on the inside. I am paralyzed in grief, knowing that there is nothing that will bring Jesse back to his mother and father and his two brothers. Tyler and Colin Childress, and Colin is Collin. The loss of Jesse, their big brother. How can you even imagine the loss of their big brother, who they both looked up to and loved? Jesse was showing the way for them to enter adulthood, serving his country, earning his entry to college, a comment to education. They lost their beloved brother, whom they wrestled with, camped with, laughed and joked with, and loved dearly. John Hook, traditional spelling. Jesse's beloved grandfather. They forever shared the football games together. John loved his firstborn grandson very much. What a shame to have that special child taken away, leaving grandfather to grieve. Alan and Richard Hook, all traditional spelling. Jesse's uncles, who were guides in Jesse's life, showing him how to live a clean and moral life, teaching Jesse how a young man goes about tackling life with zesto. They are now without their little bear cub to watch over and protect. Lynn Cederquist, LynnCederquist, Jesse's beloved aunt, who loved him and misses him dearly. Ojai, I'm probably butchering that, Ojai, the town where his father and mother grew up and where I and Lisa's dad still live. The whole community of Ojai, and I apologize if it's pronounced a different way, are all watching in silence out of respect, love, and sympathy. Say nothing in fear of disturbing us. At the same time, we are needing and wanting comforting, but at the same time, we are on guard, hoping no one brings up the trial or the, quote, incident, end quote, for it begins to open the wound. Taking Jesse from us left a large hole in our family. I think it's justice that the one who stole Jesse's life and crippled his family with grief and loss should give his life in return. Through my tears I write this. Thank you for listening to A Grandmother's Heart. Gail Childress, grandmother of my beloved Jesse Childress.
Thank you.
Carly Richards.
Ms. Richards, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carly Richards, Carli Richards. I just took down some notes. But I knew it'd be a little scatterbrained, and it happened since the incident. Life wasn't always like super easy for me, and I feel like the incident on the night of July 19th that ran into July 20th, 2012, was the icing on the cake. I'm a Navy veteran, so luckily James Holmes was smart enough to lob the tear gas right at my head, the first canister. And I immediately recognized the smell, and I immediately left. The second I stood up, I felt shots fired at me. And according to my partner at the time, who was at the movies with me, I jumped over him and fled the theater. I have wounds in my back, my legs, my arms, my chest, just sprayed with birdshot. And I somehow still ran out all the way to the car and didn't realize that I was bleeding until I got to the car. We flagged down a police officer on Exposition and Sable who was doing watching over a construction area to ask him where a hospital was, and he flagged down an ambulance for me. And I'm lucky that there were so many good people to take care of me that night. and that there still are. And though I'm also happy with the verdict, because I do feel that it's important to hold people accountable for their actions and that the defendant is guilty. That doesn't mean that it hasn't hurt to be alive since it happened. And to this day, I'm glad I made it out alive. But I can no longer view the world through the same lens that I feel, quote unquote, normal people do. And I'll never feel normal again. It makes me sick to know that the defendant will always be a part of my life. I still have lead in my body. I have chronic pain. I can't form coherent sentences or process long-term memories most of the time. I can't hold down a job. My relationships have suffered because I can't relate to other people. The crime comes up constantly in conversations with people, especially strangers. And they always look at me like they've just seen a ghost, which maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know what's real and what's not half the time anymore. I guess we have that in common. Family members always look at me as if I'm going to shatter. I feel like their eyes used to be kind of blinded behind rose-colored glasses. And what was done to me tarnished that for them. Despite that, you know, life wasn't easy until, it wasn't easy before then. But it's been much harder. And considering that I'm one of the luckier people, for lack of better words, who survived the theater shooting, that's pretty awful. The crime made me a target for years after, because even the worst criminals in society apparently have fan clubs. And in a perfect world, there would be some sort of sentence that could fully make the defendant feel the severity of what he inflicted upon others. But since I personally think that he doesn't have that capacity to feel that, and that healing for those affected by the crime is the most important thing right now, I just hope that the maximum penalty will be imposed upon James Egan Holmes for the crimes he committed against humanity, to ensure that he won't hurt anyone else ever again. And I sincerely hope that everyone affected by this act of mass violence finds the hope and healing that they definitely need and deserve. I know I'm sick and tired of smelling tear gas randomly. I'm sick of sleep paralysis. I'm sick of pain, insomnia, nightmares, and constant paranoia. I often feel I'll likely never rest because of this crime, and I can only hope for the same for the person who tried so desperately to take my life away and failed. I am finally beginning to heal, and I will get my life back. We all deserve life, no matter how hard he tried to take it away from us. And despite that he caused so much destruction and devastation, he also created heroes. The irony of surviving a term in the military and then getting shot outside of the military just had me in stitches for the longest time. But, you know, everyone's grieving, everyone's hurting, but the people that we lost, they're heroes. They, you know, it's just more proof of what a coward the defendant is. And I wanted to throw in a quote from The Dark Knight Rises because I was very happy when I finally got to view the movie in its entirety when it came out on DVD. I had gone back to the movies, but didn't want to go back to that one. I remember Bane saying in the movie, "Without despair, there can be no hope." And I'm going to try and stay as hopeful as possible, no matter how negatively and severely this crime has impacted my life. So thank you for letting me speak, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with apologies to the Childers family and the state of California. It turns out that it's actually pronounced Ojai, and that's embarrassing. But I wanted to clear that up on the record.
Okay. All right. At least you didn't say OJ or something. All right, Mr. Orman.
Your Honor, this is a victim impact statement from Ananiah Thompson, Theater 9 survivor. My name is Ananiah Thompson. In the summer of the shooting, I had just returned home from Kansas after completing my first 2 years of college, where I ran track and field on scholarship. I had returned home that summer because I was blessed enough to have earned a partial track and field scholarship at Colorado Western University to run cross-country and track and field for the next 2 years of college. For that whole summer, Derek and I walked once or twice a week, literally, to Century 16 to watch movies, sometimes even twice a day. My birthday had just passed, and I was counting down the days until The Dark Knight Rises would be premiering. So the day had finally arrived, and I went online to Fandango, attempting to purchase tickets for my husband, and I had my card declined and declined. But I was persistent. An hour later, I went back online, and to my surprise, there was not only a 12 a.m. showing as an option, but also a 12:05 option. That would be the Theater 9 showing. To this day, I ask myself why I did not just give up when my card declined, why I didn't just stay home and try again the next day. I sure wished I had, because my life is forever changed. Every day for the past 3 years has been nothing short of a dark night. Although I have not spoken to a therapist except once and had counseling sessions with my pastor at my church, I suffer a great deal from paranoia. Everywhere I go, I feel like someone might shoot me or my family, and most my husband. I run to my car at night, and even in the day, as soon as I shut the door, I lock them. Not that it could protect me from a bullet, but it still makes me feel a little safer. Entering the second year, my family encouraged me to go to the movies, and that I should no longer let what the defendant did to all of us keep this hold on me. So I went to the movies, and I must say that it was the second hardest day of my life. I stared at every single person in the building and every door as I walked in the building, and that is when I started to smell the tear gas. Then, when I could feel my eyes burning, that's when I could feel the soda spilling all over my legs and arms. That's when I could feel myself running to the top of the theater, across to the exit, that I was unaware of stumbling over people who were still hiding on the floor. Blind, unable to see or feel anything at that moment. I remembered getting out of the theater, outside to the parking lot, unable to breathe from the suffocation of the gas, hiding under a truck, face planted in the ground, not knowing if there was more than one shooter, not knowing if I was safe. Never would I have guessed that one man could have been capable of plotting alone a crime that impacted not only my life, but hundreds of others. As I look back to that year, I will have you know that I never went to Colorado Western State University to continue doing what I loved, which was running. I could not bring myself to put my hands to the ground with my head down, waiting for a volunteer veteran to shoot a gun, signaling me to run. Because that was not longer my idea of fun and competition. That is now my idea of terror and fear. I sometimes find myself daydreaming about what happened that night and how I'm in the grocery store or at work, and sometimes someone walks in shooting because they had a bad day. I would just like to ask everyone here in the courtroom today, if you do not already, be kind to those around you, and be careful of how you talk to people, how you address people, and think about what you say before you say things. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, if this defendant would have felt a little more love from those around him, maybe this could have been prevented. Not excusing his actions at all, or blaming the lack of love entirely for why he felt no self-worth. But you would be surprised of how much you can make a difference in someone's life simply by saying, "You look pretty today," or "You did a good job today," or even smiling at someone could have a huge impact on people and possibly prevent things from happening like this in the future, because I would never want anyone to feel this pain that all of us here feel today.
Mr. Orman, could you spell the first name?
I beg your pardon, Your Honor.
That's all right.
It's Anshanya, and Thompson is Thompson.
Great, thank you. Ms. Stitch McGuire?
Lamoa Cross.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I have this letter that I wrote to AJ originally on February 26th of 2012. And it started out from the beginning of our relationship through our marriage and then through death. We weren't married. I just want to make that clear. We know that parts of that letter would have changed. So I changed that letter accordingly. And I do want to point out that although I know this tragedy was absolutely heinous and negative, I'll point out all of those things, but I also wanted to point out a lot of the beautiful things since then, because I definitely see a very beautiful silver lining at the end of this. So, dear AJ, let's see if I can do this, and please forgive the order of things. I did try my hardest. South Dakota, spring break, hanging out at Tierra Park, our favorite color purple, Mother's Day, black t-shirt, April 18th, holding hands, check again, check, my graduation, baseball games, summer break, June 13th, the first time we slept next to each other, kissing in the rain, hugging in the rain, the rapid heartbeat, I love you, stargazing on your back porch, meeting your grandparents, our super pinky promise, back rubs, watching Insidious in your room, night games, you and me at Rocky Ridge Park, talking about our future together, sitting on your front step at 3 a.m. because of the failed Harry Potter premiere, crying about college, leaving for college, obnoxious text, my weekend with you in Aurora, Fort Collins with Will, the license plate game, movie weekends, the first time I slept over, the first time you cared for me sick, your homecoming dinner with me, dang, 2012. Watching game shows, your RimCAT acceptance, our inside jokes, Cheesecake Factory for Valentine's Day dinner, your amazing make me cry text message, St. Patrick's Day, your prom, our 1-year anniversary, your graduation, our camping trip with Amanda, Lake Dillon with John and Emily, David, Lori, and Amanda. You said to save the pizza scraps for Uncle David, so they saved the pizza. Dairy Queen with your mom, hula practice, blisters, the movie of the summer, July 20th of 2012. The Dark Knight Rises. We took pictures. The last pictures we take together. Bam. Panic. Bam. Shotgun. Bam. Screams. Bam. AR-15. Bam. Gone. Everything was going to be okay. Sand through my fingers. Tragedy. Red and blue lights. Loud. Scary. Alone. Amanda Lindgren. I met the Cowden sisters. They held hands. We were so lost. Where is Batman? Cody provided us a safe haven. Gateway High School. My old stomping grounds. Cody, find AJ. 18 hours in hell. No sleep. News. No news. News. No news. News. You're gone. You were murdered. Rest in the truest peace. You told me you were okay that night. A squirrel jumped off a burning building into a pool to save his life, and he needed that. A football vigil, a balloon release, President Obama, a memorial service. Are you proud?
My first interview with 9 News, your funeral. I started writing to you. Loneliness, confusion, suicidal thoughts. I picked up ceramics, started playing pool, got really good. Really good. School. You were supposed to start college. Your 19th birthday. A new best friend, Melanie. A new beer bong partner. A confidant. Anger. Struggles with my Christian foundation. Grief. Depression. 25 milligrams of Zoloft. Anxiety. Why, God? Struggles with politics. Gun regulation. The right to bear arms. Where to fit in. Still writing. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Thanksgiving. An empty seat. Your godson grew so much. Ups and downs. Moved to Oregon. Cigarettes. 0 milligrams of Zoloft. Cold turkey. More counseling. Moved to Vermont. Counseling. Crying. Moved to Montana. Being blank. Interviews. Christmas. You were still gone. Will and Mom's trip to San Diego. Party with Amanda and a bunch of friends for New Year's of 2013. I stopped counseling. No medication. I was losing it. Falling off of school. My grades were falling. Going to graduate late. Binge drinking. Being reckless. Careless. A breaking point. Still writing. I have to leave. Oregon, Montana, Vermont. I love the Aurora Police Department. The preliminary hearings. Detective Craig Apple, Detective Matthew Files, Officer Justin Grizzle, Officer Jason Oviatt, Officer Cody Lanier. Thank yous. Lunch at Chipotle, Super Bowl Sunday, a new friend. Someone to care for. A bright side. I'll stay in Colorado. Washington, D.C. How do you feel about guns? I don't know. New York City for Maria Claire. How do you feel about guns? I know now. Our 2-year anniversary without you. June 23rd, 2013, I went to a movie for the first time. Man of Steel. I missed the smell of popcorn. They had cherry Coke. I didn't realize I was even watching a movie. I missed it. A very proud moment. The 1 year, candlelight vigil, the theater still stands and I'm okay with that. It was my last time with you there. July 20th, 2013. Not a perfect day. We miss you. I kind of finished the movie. I had to drink through it. I don't remember much. Your 20th birthday, another Thanksgiving. Grandpa misses you. Another Christmas. Grandma misses you. New Year's Eve. I actually finished The Dark Knight Rises this time. Rise from Tragedy. The movie was beautiful. Another New Year. I stopped writing. Welcome 2014. When is trial going to start? Rehashing, anger, disappointment, tears. David and Lori miss you. They froze that slice of pizza. Your mom is trying. She wants a hug from you. She misses you. Will misses you. He's been so quiet. But he hurts too. July 20th, 2014. Moving forward. They still have vigils. It's still hard. The court wants this. The court wants that. We just want you. Third Thanksgiving without you. Third Christmas without you. Welcome 2015. Trial's supposed to start this year. That's what they said last year. April 18, 2015. We were supposed to get married. No. April 27th, 2015. Trial's starting instead. My testimony, their testimonies, re-traumatizing. Tell Grandma we love and miss her. Guilty. Stay strong. We're almost done with this. Your mom did great on her testimony. The death penalty, my fingers are crossed. Life without parole. Your mom wants to hear your voice. Your life without parole. Disappointment, counseling, healing, taking heavier steps forward. You're still not here. I am. I will speak loudly. I have loved. I will continue to love. I love and love. Dedication, a new commitment, a new proposal. I will say yes. I will be their last, and they will be mine. Marriage, I do. A honeymoon. We will experience birth, children, a house, support, life, growing, living, and still growing. creating family traditions, Easters, Thanksgivings, Christmases, birthdays, struggles, triumphs, tears, smiles, happiness. Their first day of kindergarten, their first day of middle school, their first day of high school, their first day of college, their marriages. He'll be by my side. Our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our family dinners, good health, happiness, reminiscing. We'll tell them about A.J. Boik. Old age, him and her, lying face to face. Our lives together, our lives completed together. He's my best friend, and I will commemorate you. We will experience more loss. We will experience more pain. We will experience death, and we will experience life. Together, always, forever. Tragedy. He lost. I win. We rise. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I know I forgot my name. Gosh, man. God. My name is Lamoa Cross, Lasamoa.
And your last name?
Cross, Cross.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Pearson?
Your Honor, I'm reading a statement from Joshua Nolan. He was a Theater 9 victim who was severely injured by gunshots to his leg and his arm. Joshuanolan. He filled out the victim impact statement in describing how the crime has affected his life and his family. It is very hard to describe into words how my life has changed by this horrendous crime. Over the course of the past 3 years, I have developed PTSD. I have constant day-to-day flashbacks of the shooting and the screaming. I also have to live with the constant reminder as I have to endure daily physical pain which will follow me for the rest of my life. I've been unable to maintain or fulfill a reasonable social relationship with my friends and family during my time of grievance. To this day, I lie and put on a good face to my friends, co-workers, children, family, and loved ones, so that they don't have to worry about me and feel the need to try to figure out how to make me feel better. I now have to walk with a cane and endure looks from strangers of why. I've also been called House from the TV show. I find myself sometimes hiding behind jokes because my scars and limp have made me self-conscious of my own body and looks. My family and friends don't look at me the same way as they did before the shooting, and most days I feel I have to go out of their way, and most days I feel they have to go out of their way to make sure I'm comfortable with my surroundings. I also believe that they feel the need to be careful with their words to avoid an awkward conversation that would trigger anything about my injuries or emotional state. Part B, please describe any physical or emotional injuries sustained as a result of this crime. I suffer from muscle and chronic pain in my left leg and neuropathic pain in my right arm that fluctuates at a pain level scale between 4 and 7 on most normal days. I've lost partial functionality and a loss of feeling in the fingers of my right hand and left foot. My life now revolves around taking pain pills, muscle relaxants, and nerve medications to diminish my pain. I attend a combination of physical and strength therapy 3 times a week so I can develop muscle strength and flexibility and try to live a semblance of the life that I had before the shooting. Eventually, I will have to have reconstructive surgery in my arm to release nerve pain, and I'm in talks with my doctors about amputating my left leg to lessen the physical pain. In addition, I'm dealing with the emotional strain of the financial impact that the time in the hospital, out of work, rehabilitation, giving up on my dream job, and the ongoing surgeries have had on me and my family. What do you believe could be done to assist in repairing the harm inflicted on you and their family? He wrote, there is nothing that can permanently be done to repair the injuries that were inflicted on me. Constant surgery and physical therapy are the only options that I have. Compensation to cover my physical therapy and the building hospital expenses for past and future surgeries are the only restitution I believe I can benefit from at this time. Conditions that he would like to see the court impose on the defendant. I would like to hear a formal apology from the defendant to me, the rest of the families, and victims that were affected by this mass shooting. It's my wish that the apology be televised on air. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teach McGuire?
Marissa Sharp.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, my name is Marissa Sharp, Marissa-Sharp. On July 20th, On July 20th, 2012, both my sense of security and self-confidence were stripped away from me. My sister Maya and I arrived in Colorado from Nashville, Tennessee for the first time on the 19th and were anxious to see the Dark Knight Rises. I had just completed my second year of my physical therapy school and flew to Colorado for a family reunion. I pestered my sister all day over the phone to find a theater since I was arriving on a later flight. Our hotel was in a city I had never heard of at the time called Aurora. She managed to find a theater that was close by. I called Century 16 and was told to hurry and purchase through the Cinemark app if I wanted to attend the 12:05 showing, which still had some seats left. I began the process of buying our tickets, but soon became distracted with something that I still don't know what was at that time. I resumed the process no more than 5 minutes later, only to see that the 12:05 showing had just sold out. Shortly following our 12:10 a.m. premiere, we were warned by fire alarms and armed officers running through our theater to seek safety. We stepped outside only to experience sheer pandemonium. My sister had both EMT and ER nursing training, so she jumped right in to assist injured survivors. I, on the other hand, had not been exposed to such traumas and immediately went into shock. I eventually assisted survivors who were covered in blood. Some, I ultimately found out, were covered in the blood of those who died protecting them. I remembered calling one victim's mother in particular who was out of state. I was sitting next to her daughter, covered in blood, but knew I could not tell her mom that. I just said, something really bad has happened in Aurora. Your daughter is safe, but you need to get here as soon as you can. It's hard to describe the chaos outside. There was no Anderson Cooper or familiar face around to make you feel more knowledgeable of the situation. During all the assistance we were providing to other survivors, my sister and I still had no idea who the shooter or shooters were, or if they were still at large, and had to proceed in such a cautious manner. While trying to adjust to the sympathetic nervous system response my body was experiencing, I remained as close to my sister as I could. We watched first responders load multiple injured victims in their cars all at once before frantically driving away. One of the last loaded was an injured survivor my sister so heroically aided in attempts to salvage what was remaining of his lower leg. His screams and cries of agony still haunt me to this day. Before that morning, I never knew what it was like to fear for my life. The hypervigilant state I found myself in carries over into my everyday life now and was the most difficult to adjust to the initial 6 months after the shooting. I endured multiple traumatic events following that morning, which I wasn't able to process at the time due to still being in shock from being in Aurora. I was dealing with a lack of self-confidence while enduring a doctoral program that was unsupportive of my experience, all while adjusting to unfamiliar cities for internships and experiencing flashbacks. I kept finding myself involved in situations of death and devastation, and one of the final blows was losing my grandmother who raised me just 4 days following the preliminary hearings. That is the point when depression set in, and people would casually say, "Marissa, we need to place you in a bubble." While to them it was a joke, I was getting to the place of barely being able to hold on and find the strength to keep fighting. I went on to participate in therapy sessions filled with psychotherapy and EMDR treatments. The EMDR technique brought on migraines and flashbacks as I recalled facts I tried to suppress. I came to realize that I was experiencing feelings of worthlessness because I wasn't able to do more on that night. Those feelings still carry over into my daily life and reveal themselves as a severe lack of confidence. In addition to therapy, I've made many trips to my doctor for medication management. I have experimented with various antidepressants, beta blockers, and anti-anxiety medications to help assist my PTSD, while adjusting to my new norm. If you told me that by the age of 24 I would be a regular at therapy and on multiple medications, I would have never believed you. I am now 26 and my brain is always on go mode and stressing over something. I am reminded of the instances of shock I experienced when developing news breaks about mass casualty situations. No longer can I quickly scan through these news segments. I know the terror the survivors are experiencing as my mind flashes back to that horrific morning. Dealing with knowing few facts about a situation other than that your life is in danger at that very moment is a feeling that will unfortunately always resonate with me and something that I never wish on anyone. Because of the defendant, I have lost my sense of security. Just when I think I'm to the point of overcoming my symptoms of PTSD, I'm reminded of the magnitude of the actions he took that morning. A joyous occasion such as being blessed with the opportunity to purchase my first house is overshadowed by the fear of readjusting and living alone. I've even had difficulty traveling to and staying in Aurora alone this week since my sister was unable to attend this phase. Traveling and living my daily life are no longer tasks I can take lightly. Because of the defendant, I always feel like I have to look over my shoulder, standing ready and on guard for the next traumatic event to occur. I look back on the picture my sister and I took in the theater prior to our premiere and realize I could be standing in front of you telling an entirely different story. My heart breaks for the family members the family members and loved ones of victims who were so heartlessly taken from them. I can in no way empathize with their pain. I hope you, Judge, see the vast impact this selfish and cowardly man's actions had on so many. Not only the victims who were in the direct path of his hatred, but also those in indirect contact with his heinous crime that morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McGuire?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, Chantal Blanc, who is the wife of deceased homicide victim Jonathan Blanc, couldn't be here, but she asked the court if we could show some photographs of her family.
Okay.
Thank you. Your Honor, if I may approach, yesterday the court told Greg Medek that he could supplement his statement with an article that he wanted me to also read. If it's okay.
Yes. Thank you. Do you want to read it into the record at this time?
Please, thank you, Your Honor. And I did also provide the defense with a copy.
Okay.
Your Honor, I looked up the story I spoke to you about yesterday, and if possible, please read it into the record. This is Gregory Medek, M-E-D-E-K, who is the father of homicide victim Michaela Medek, M-I-C-A-Y-L-A. I would also like to have it in the record that my opinion is this case was about good and evil, and that the attached article did happen to Renee and myself, and there is way more to it than just this article. The article is titled, Greg Medek, Loss of Daughter in Aurora Shooting, Ruined My Life, by Colleen, C-O-L-L-E-E-N, O'Connor. Greg Medek sums up the loss of his daughter, 23-year-old Michaela, in just 4 words. It ruined my life. Medek, 49, finds it hard to get up each morning, surviving through work and with his wife Renee, trying to be strong for Michaela's older siblings, Amanda and Shane. Kayla was the baby of our family, he said. Everyone looked out for her. 6 days after the funeral, he found himself alone in the house. I could pray as loud and fervently as I wanted, he said. I stood in the hallway across from her old bedroom, and I asked Jesus for a message or a sign because I needed to know for sure where she was. The following morning, he and Renee were up early. I saw in the archway to our back door a very beautiful blue fluorescent light ringing in the door frame. Like something was standing there, illuminated in that heavenly blue light, he said. I walked over there, and it was breathtaking, like it was shimmering. I didn't want to touch it. He had taken a few steps toward the living room to get his wife when this very powerful presence, like a life presence, poured into the living room and filled the entire room, he said. All my cares and troubles, all my grief and sorrow, all the pain in my heart melted off me and off her. We just looked at each other and said, yeah, she is with Christ in heaven. It was a fleeting oasis. That's the only solace I have, he said, knowing that she's on the other side, waiting for me and her mom and brother and sister, and that all her cares in the world are over. After a pause, he speaks through tears. But it doesn't help me go through it now, he said. It kills me every day that I can't wrap my arms around her and say, I love you. I just want her back so bad. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
George and Amy Schaefer.
Good morning, folks.
Hi, I'm George Schaefer, George Schaffer. I'm the uncle of Matt McQuinn. The picture shows Matt in between my father and I, his grandpa. And he had nicknamed him Mighty Matthew. And as it turns out, it was very appropriate. Since Matt's death, there hasn't been a day that's gone by that I haven't thought of what he went through that night. Every day, whether consciously or not, Matt's death is always on my mind on some level. It's a weight on my heart that is yet to be lifted, and I've resigned myself to the fact that it probably never will. I cannot handle being in crowds. Everywhere I go, I watch people, wondering who may or may not be a threat. I've been put on antidepressants and anti-anxiety prescriptions. In crowded stores, I end up leaving because I cannot watch everyone and become anxious. I go only to small restaurants and sit so I can watch the doors. Movie theaters are totally out of the question. Even at church, I have to take an anti-anxiety pill before going in. At my stepdaughter's graduation this last spring, which was held in a gymnasium, I spent the entire time watching the doors, scrutinizing everyone coming in. My television habits have changed enormously. I have to stay with light comedies, game shows, or nothing at all. I find movies with gunfire disgusting. Though this case is almost over, soon to be filed away, I will still be trying to make sense of a senseless situation. The ending of this case does not mean the end of what I deal with on a daily basis. I never believed that my life could change so dramatically from one single event. And the picture showing now is from the summer of 1986. My cowboy boots had gotten wet, and Matt stepped in my boots trying to wear them. I saw that recently and realized that I could never wear his shoes.
Thank you.
My name is Amy Schaefer, AMYSHAFFER. John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that somebody laid down his life for his friends. Even though Matt was in the superhero movie theater, he is and always will be our superhero. My name is Amy Schaefer. I am the aunt of homicide victim Matthew McQuinn, who was shot 9 times and died protecting his loved ones. My best analogy as to the impact of Matt's death is like a rock being thrown into a body of water. Although the rock sinks and you surmise that that deed is done, the ripples of that rock cause continue to go on and on. Thus is the impact of Matt's death on not only myself, my family, and my friends. But the whole Ohio community and the nation as well. We never know how this tragedy has affected so many lives, and I can only detail as to how my life and those close to me have been impacted. My husband, George, has been in and out of the hospital. With stress-related issues since the killing. We thought at first that he was having heart issues, which, although not a medical term, his heart was indeed broken. He's had stress tests, a heart cath, and was diagnosed with high-level anxiety and depression. It has just now, through medication, been somewhat manageable. The nightmares are not as bad. But the feeling of being helpless and not being able to save our loved ones or to protect them is very prominent. We can no longer tolerate loud noises, firecrackers, car backfiring, gun salutes at parades, because it all sounds like a shooting. We no longer go to movies or any type of darkened auditoriums because the fear of darkness and the unknown is too much to handle. Large crowds, noisy establishments are not tolerable. We are constantly observing everyone. We keep to small settings, and even then our focus is on all the people and the doors. Even in a church, the place where you would assume to be safe, it is not for us. Because even in recent events, this is proven to be an unsafe place also to others. Matt was extremely close to his grandfather, Mr. Wonderful. And although he was 83 when he passed away 1.5 years ago, he days earlier was given a clean bill of health and was even hauling concrete. We truly believe that he died of a broken heart. When he took his last breath, he was reaching for something, and we like to believe that he was reaching for Matt and that they were once again reunited. You always believe that you will bury your grandparents or your parents in your lifetime. You can never imagine burying someone so young. He never got to get married, have a family, etc. Birthdays, holidays, family gatherings are not the same. Matt's absence is felt in every aspect of our lives. Although my father-in-law referred to him as Mr. Wonderful, after burying Matt, he never wanted to be called that ever again, because in our hearts, Mr. Wonderful was buried and killed on that night. His life was cut short in that movie theater. I am never one to want to stand out, and I would rather just be known as a caregiver, content to stand in the background being supportive. But I, along with Matt's family and friends, appreciate the voice that we are being able to be heard today. Since the shooting, no matter where I go or my family goes, we are always the family from Ohio that lost our loved one in the Colorado movie theater. And that is a title I would not wish on anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer and Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Edson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Judge, with the court's permission, I'm privileged to read a victim impact statement from William Boik, B-O-I-K, brother of A.J. Boik. It's from a pre-printed victim impact statement answering the 4 various questions. It is a bit hard to read, Judge. I'll do my best. Please describe how this crime has affected your life and your family. This crime has stolen the life of my brother, my friendship with my brother, and the future I expected to have with him as we both grew older. Our relationship at the time was expanding as he was maturing and moving on to college. Additionally, my mother sees this, and it broke her heart even more, and mine even more, to see it happen. Please describe any physical or emotional injuries sustained as a result of this crime. There are too many emotional injuries to list here. Most notably, seeing my family, my friends, AJ's friends, and our community collectively devastated. Even after 3 years, I feel the pain and the pain of others as we grieve. What do you believe could be done to assist in repairing the harm inflicted on you and your family? Prevention. The problem being that you cannot always do that. Additionally, it makes it a lot more difficult when such a plotted crime interrupts the innocent lives in such an unexpected way. Are there any conditions you would like to see the court impose on the defendant? I want no contact in any way, and I wish the same for the defendant to the world. I believe he should never be given parole, nor get to see the world he stole from his victims. Signed, William Boik.
Thank you. Ms. Teach McGuire.
Kathleen Larimer.
Mrs. Larimer, good morning again.
Good morning. Kathleen is Kathleen, and Larimer is Larimer. I am the mother of the victim, John. I am so tired of crying. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to testify about the impact of losing John. So I really don't want to talk too much about that anymore. Losing him left an emptiness and a gap
that I don't think will ever be filled again. Okay. I would like to take this statement in a slightly different direction. Okay. Mostly these are things I would like to address to the court and thank the court for some of the decisions that have been made. The live feed camera actually was a very good idea. I opposed this at first, pretty vocally, at least in words, but it ended up being a very good idea. John's family and friends from all over the country could watch the trial without having to travel to Colorado to sit in court. And the fact that the way the camera was mounted and couldn't zoom was very, very helpful. Court orders concerning the media were very helpful and made a stressful situation easier. The media initially overwhelmed us at home, and I was really afraid of coming out here and being overwhelmed again, and it has not been that way at all. So thank you for the orders you put in place. The gag order meant the trial was tried inside the courtroom and not out in the public. I think that's how trials should be tried. I agree with the court's order regarding graphic images. One of my big fears was that those types of pictures would end up on the internet and be there forever. Thank you very much for working so hard to preserve the integrity of the trial process. Even when I may not have liked the decisions made by the court, I understood why those decisions were made. Thank you again for explaining your decision so clearly to the jury and the lawyers. That helped those of us in the gallery to understand those decisions too. I would also like to thank the jury for giving up months of their lives and doing what they were asked to do. I'm sure it could not have been an easy task for them. Okay. The way our system of justice works, the defendant is required to have legal representation. While I was upset at times that the defense was not ready, when in my opinion they should have been, I respect them for the representation of the defendant. The prosecution team deserves not only my thanks, but also the thanks of all the people they serve. As a victim navigating the criminal justice system for the first and hopefully last time, they helped me through this process every step of the way. One last thought is that this was a huge, huge trial. I am hopeful that much will be learned from this trial, right and wrong, to make criminal proceedings in the future smoother. Okay, one more comment, and this is for the record. I do not know why it was that it took hours for us to be notified that John was on the floor of that theater dead. We were not the only family to suffer this either. It was a huge jolt to learn, sitting back here in the gallery, that John's autopsy was done hours before we were notified that he, in fact, was dead. I am hopeful that now that the gag order is lifted and the trial is over, that someone with power and authority to investigate this would do so and make sure that this does not happen to anyone ever again. If you want to know what hell on earth is, I can tell you that Friday, July 20th was it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Larimer. The last comment that Mrs. Larimer made is something that I thought about, and I don't know the answer to it, and maybe the prosecution can look into that, but that occurred to me yesterday as I kept hearing from so many victims' family members about how painful that period was, understandably so, and how difficult that period was, because I remember that the autopsies were performed quickly, and I think it's a fair comment, and I don't know what the answer to the question is, but I think it's one that deserves attention, and perhaps law enforcement can look into that and get back to you and other folks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Could I add one comment to that?
Sure.
I think
one of the reasons it really impacted me was, well, in the autopsy photo, I saw John still had his dog tags on. He was military. He had military ID in his pocket and his driver's license and his dog tags and military fingerprints. It could not be that he was hard to identify. And I think that's one of the reasons it was so hard to go through that whole day.
Right, they knew, you're saying they knew who he was
They
by
knew
that
who he
point.
was. How could they not know who he was, and we didn't know for sure?
Right, I understand.
Thank you.
I think it's a fair comment. Thank you, Mrs. Larimer. All right, let's go ahead and take our morning break, and let's take about 20 minutes, and then we'll proceed at that point. The court will be in recess. Thank you.